our goal is to get you to be able to solve problems like this, which involve square roots of negatives. And it doesn't look like a square root of a negative, but one definitely develops. All right, so to make sure that you're good at that, I want to make sure you're good at the easier stuff first. Like, did you understand yesterday when I said how to do the square root of negative 81? Take a second and just remind yourself how to do that. I suggest you break it up into two square roots. Whenever you're simplifying square roots, you make it a square root and a square root. It's just this case, it's the square root of 1 and square root of 81. And that's 9, and that's I, so 9I. Raise your hand if you had 9I. Nice. Okay, good. How could they be more complicated? Well, they can be way more complicated. What if I had said, what's I to the 11th power? I'm going to remind you before you do this one that that's a whole bunch of I squareds. In fact, I wouldn't write I squared, I squared, I squared, I squared, I squared. I would write I squared to the 5th because I'm smart about this. I don't want to have to write out I squared 5 times. But then is that enough I's? Now I need one more. And then I would remember what I squared was. Do you remember what I squared was? I said it was the most important thing you're supposed to remember from yesterday. Do you remember? I will not call on you, but how many of you know it in your head? Raise your hand. I will not call on you. Okay, good. Most of you remember it's negative 1. Good. So then this is really just negative 1 to the 5th, and that's negative 1 times I, which makes negative I. All right, let's see if you can do one of those. I to the 9th. What's I to the 9th? A whole bunch of I squareds, right? If you have to, write out all your I squareds separately. I squared, I squared, I squared, I squared. But if you want to be smarter about it, you write I squared and you say, but I would do that 4 times, right? And then an extra I. Talk to the kid next to you, see what they got for a final answer on this one. All right. So, it's very easy to get the negatives mixed up in this. There is no negatives in there because the negatives all cancel. Negative 1 to the 4th, it all becomes positive 1. So it's just I. Just positive I. All right. Then we had this kind of problem. 2I times 3I plus 4. And if you leave an I squared in your answer, I will be very disappointed. Please talk to the kid next to you, see what they got. All right, you should have had 6 I squareds, but that won't stay that way. And then 8 I's. And I squared changed to negative 1, so then it's really 6 times negative 1, which makes negative 6 plus 8I. If it came down to it, would you know which one to put first? Good. The real part goes first. Then the imaginary part goes second. See, normally if there's a variable, the variable's supposed to be first. This is not a variable. You know, like if it was 8x and negative 6, you should write 8x minus 6. But not in this case because I is not a variable. All right. Real part, imaginary part. All right, and then the last kind was like this, and this is the hardest kind because you have to know like 5 things. You have to know how to simplify fractions. You have to know how to do or simplify square roots of negatives, and you need to know how to factor. This is like an ultimate problem in that if you know this, you know how to do 3 major topics. All right, we'll get the dice of destiny to tell me who to call on first here. It's row 5, person 3, Allie Carr, that's you. Do you know how to do this part right here? Just that part. 4 and 2, and what else? Yes, except you should really start with square root of negative 1. And then that is your 3 square roots. And then this one is I. And this one is 2. So it's 2I root 2. That right there is one of the harder parts. Okay. Now I'm going to rewrite it. 2 plus and minus 2I root 2 all over 4. Dice of destiny. Who shall I call on? Row 5, person 1. Zola, that's you. That is true. I will do that. And then I'll call on the next person. Row 3, person 2. Smirsky, that's you.
You can also take the 2 out of the top.
Yes, there's a 2 up there. I'm going to divide this by 2, and I'm going to divide that by 2. But then I also have to put a 2 in the front. Smirsky, simplify that down for me. What do I have on the top now?
Yeah. 1 plus or minus 1i square root of 2.
I'm just going to say I, because 1I and I are the same thing. Square root 2. Good. All over 2 times 2. There. Row 3, person 1, Steichen. We're almost done.
You can cancel out the 2s.
Yes, do. And this is it, unless you want to be extra fancy. Adra, do you know how to break it up into the real and the imaginary part? Come on, you got this. That can be separate from that if you can divide them by 2 separately. All right, 1 can be divided by 2, plus and minus that can be divided by 2. This is not required, but I want you to see it because then you got your real part separate from your imaginary part. And the real part's first. Okay. Now, to get ready for what we're doing today, I showed you at the beginning like that really, really hard problem that we would be able to solve here. But to be able to do that, we really need to back up and be able to do this. I am a online teacher for 1 hour, and I teach higher algebra. And in that class, there was this kind of question on the test. And a ton of people got it wrong. I want you to just guess for me what they did and then got it wrong. Seems like kind of an easy question unless you really know the answer. What do you think they did? The tons of people who got it wrong, what did they do? Row 2, last person, Hunter Bloomberg. What would be a right answer, but yet still kind of wrong?
Square root.
That's right, actually. That's not wrong, but then they did something wrong from here. Like, what is the square root of 81? Okay.
Did they do that twice? They changed it negative 10.
They just got 9. Maybe a lot of you had made the same mistake. It's not right. What's wrong with that? Nobody in here knows what's wrong with that? I can see why a lot of kids got it wrong in the online class. Ooh, I see a one hand. Tomas.
Does that have to be absolute value of x?
It does, and that's just kind of being picky on the work, except it also tells you that there's 2 answers, doesn't it? Doesn't absolute value problems where you have an absolute value, don't you get 2 things could be in here? What could be in there? 9 and also negative 9. So this is right but wrong, because if you leave just one answer, that's a big deal in math. You've forgotten one of the right answers. You got one answer, but you don't have the other one. So here's how it should have been done from here. You square root and you get the absolute value, with which Tomas remembered. That's amazing. Not many people remember that. That tells you to do 2 things. X equals 9 and x equals negative 9. All right, so we're just laying a little foundation work for what we do today. That's not new. We did that before. You've done this before. Just one more to make sure you haven't forgotten that. Would you please solve this one? Square root, absolute value of x, and square root of 64 is 8. Now, a lot of people mess up right there because they put plus and minus 8. That would be wrong. Why? Why would that be wrong? Because the square root of 64 is only one thing. And tons of people get this wrong on tests later because they think the square root of 64 has 2 answers, and it does not. The reason that there will be 2 answers later is because absolute value equations, they break into 2 equations, x equals 8 and x equals negative 8. And I know you might be just like, well, I just want to write right by the 8. Well, then you're saying that the square root of 64 is plus and minus 8, and it is not. The square root of 64 is just 8. And I have to mark that wrong on tests every year because people have been taught this wrong. They think the square roots have 2 answers, and they don't. Okay. So let's talk about absolute values again. What if the problem had been written as an absolute value in the first place and it looked like that? Do you know how to solve absolute value equations? You're supposed to. It's one of the things on the silver 20, and this is the moment that you need that little skill. We're only going to do it once because you're supposed to be good at this by now. Split. X minus 4 is 8. X minus 4 is negative 8. And I want you to ponder for a second. These are identical to each other, except for one negative right there. Otherwise, they are absolutely the same equation with one little negative thrown in. Okay. So as I solve them, though, I will get different answers. The answer isn't like plus and minus 5. It's not. 8 plus 4 is 12. Negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. And 12 and negative 4 are not just plus and minus of each other. There's your 2 answers. All right, now, all of these things are important to be able to handle the problems that we're doing today. And one last reminder, what we're trying to get to is that guy right there. So to do that guy right there, let's just do one that's similar to it first. X minus 5 squared, nope, I'm wrong. Don't square that. Sorry. Equals negative 25. And I am sorry, I was actually right. It is squared. I thought I was going to do something different, but I just going to square that. Okay, there. Got the problem right. X minus 5 quantity squared equals negative 25. Now, do you know the first step? Do you know how to simplify after the first step? First step is square root. But both sides of that are kind of complicated. One side you learned yesterday. I hope you got it down. The other side we just practiced today. Then you got to do the splits. Mr. Kraft, tell me what the right side simplifies to. This part right here. And I am wrong. I had the kid's name for the kid that sits in that seat last hour. My bad. Okay, I'm going to go to Alice. What did you have?
5i.
All right. 5i. Awesome. And on the left side, Olivia, what did you put right here? Oh, there is two Olivias. Sorry. Olivia Recker. Don't know? Absolute value, x minus 5. Because you square rooted a variable. Whenever you square root the variable, you have an absolute value. All right. Zola, do you know how to split this into two equations?
X minus 5 equals 5i.
Perfect. Negative 5i. Nice. Mr. French, next step on those red equations. Just trying to get this x alone.
It should be x equals
No, just tell me what to do. Don't tell me the answer.
you add 5.
There you go. Good. X equals, and then put the real part first. Jonah? It's right there. Just put the real part first.
It should be 5 plus 5.
That is 5 plus 5i. Now I'm going to add 5 to both sides here. Andrew,
X equals 5 minus 5.
5 minus 5i. Yep. Do you see that if you had put a plus and a minus in this problem, you would think that both parts would be negative over here, but they're not. So you got to be careful how you do these things. All right, so I got two answers. 5 plus 5i and 5 minus 5i. Those are both complex numbers because why? Because they have a real part and an imaginary part. Okay, cool. Now, that's still nowhere near as scary as that one. I'm going to show you now how to do this one, and then I think you'll be fine, and then I think I'll just give you one like it. Okay, so here's the one I've been leading up to this whole time. I add 1 to both sides. Why? Because I got to get rid of this. Why do I have to get rid of that first? Can't I just square root it? Let me show you. PEMDAS. When you're solving, you're doing PEMDAS in reverse. You look to see if you can add or subtract anything first. And I can. I can add 1 to both sides. So then I got 8. And I got negative 2x minus 3 quantity squared. Then I look to see if I can multiply and divide anything on both sides. And I can. I can divide by negative 2 on both sides. And then this comes out to negative 4. And now I have a problem that looks just like the ones we were just doing. X minus 3 squared is equal to negative 4. And then from there, I know I could trust that you could finish it. You could go square root, absolute value, and that's 2i, and then you do the splits. All right, so big picture. I'm going to ask you to solve the hardest kind of problem that I think will be on the test. So watch. Look up at the board here. What was my first thing I did? I looked to add or subtract something from both sides, because it's PEMDAS in reverse. Then I looked to multiply or divide by something, so I divided by -2. Then I had to get rid of the exponent, that squared. So the last thing I did to clean this up was I square rooted both sides. Then you gotta remember there's an absolute value down here, absolute value of x minus 3. Then you gotta know that that splits into two equations. All right, there's the big picture. How can you do it? I don't know if you're ready yet, but we'll find out. -4 parentheses x minus 2 quantity squared minus 2 is equal to 14. All right, this is the big one. Stay with me. Start by adding or subtracting something from both sides. Follow up by multiplying or dividing by something. Then you got to do exponents. And then the parentheses are the last thing that disappears and gets replaced by absolute values. This is a hard problem. I did do one just like it right before it, but I still know we're going to have like at least 10 people that probably get this wrong. All right, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to compare it with the kid next to you, so make sure that you're trying hard and that you write your answer clear so you can compare. There's two answers. All right, I'm going to pause for a second while you talk to that kid next to you. All right, my first step is I add 2 to both sides. -4 x minus 2 squared, 16. Then I divide both sides by something. Cancels. X minus 2 squared equals -4. Then I square root. And this is a really important step right there, because you got to remember absolute values and the I thing. And you got to remember not to put a plus minus in there right now. So what do you do to finish it off? Tomas, tell me what's the next step?
Oh, you put it into 2 equations.
Yep, x minus 2 is 2i, and x minus 2 is 2i. What did I do wrong?
Or you have to put a negative on one of them. So one of them is negative, equals -2i.
Yes, I'll put a negative on that one right there. It doesn't have to be the one on the right. That's the way I would do it. All right. Let's see. Quinn, what do I have to do to solve this little equation right here?
Add 2 to both sides.
Excellent. X equals 2 plus 2i. I put the real part first. All right, cool. Luke, what do I do to solve the other one?
You add 2 to both sides.
Yup. X equals, careful with the negative here now, 2 minus 2i. There's my 2 answers. How many of you would have got that right on the test? Nice. So now you're up to date. That's all you need to know for today. So today's assignment, honestly, I cut out too many first hour, but to be fair, I got to cut out the same for you. So open up the worksheet. I'm going to cut out about 1/3 of the problems, and that's fine. You can have an easy assignment every now and then. This one, hopefully, you'll just bang out while you're sitting here before the end of the hour. Nice, easy day. All right, Carlos, would you read me problem number 1? Because we are doing number 1. Know what the first step is, Carlos? Yep. x squared equals -1, and the next step is the most important one. Sienna, I'm going to square root both sides and ask you to handle it.
It's I,
It is I. Good. How about the other side?
X.
It hurts. It's not x. It's the absolute value of x. It's so important. Breen, why is that important? Because then you're going to get two answers. If there wasn't an absolute value, you wouldn't have two answers right now. Splits to two things, x equals I, x equals -I. All right. Good. Now, you're going to skip problem 2. And then you see how it's a big grid? We're going to skip the whole middle column. So I have 4 problems. I can't remember what their numbers are, but let me look. It's fine if you got ahead, that's no problem. We're skipping 2, 5, 8, and 11. It's not like those are bad problems or anything. I just want to keep the assignments very doable. That way I can honestly say accomplished. If the kid's missing a bunch of homework, they're really not trying. Because I make the assignments doable, small, and I make sure that there's an answer key posted. Between those two things, it's kind of an effort grade. Are you just trying? Because if you're trying, you should have the homework done. I mean, it's short, and there's an answer key posted. I know, sometimes you get overloaded. Sometimes you have like 6 projects due in one day. I get it. That might be a few times, but that should not be a common thing. All right, so you've got your homework, you got some time, and this would be a really smart time to come up and do corrections, because today's a light day and, like pretty easy day, I think, in math. So come up and grab your test and do corrections on your test from yesterday. I will have them sitting right here.